Welcome, everybody, to Flat Earth Nation. Mudflood was Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. I'm looking forward to today's, teaching, and I want it to be, like, let's settle Mudflood history. I mean, did I bite off more than I can chew? In my mind, no way. I did not. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna show you that there's been a reset in the world, a reset in the United States government, and we can track it. Hola, Vicky. You know what I'm doing here is I'm digging a little deeper, as they say, for the people who think I might have shut my mouth off, that I've got something here because I think I do. And this ought to be good. So, in case Randy or somebody who wants to, well, who, you know, doesn't have to be just somebody like Randy, who's been a big part of this, but anybody want to come in, you got to check this out. This is going to be, in a way, fun, I guess. Started here doing this. Make sure I'm sharing because this is super important. Started this morning because we leave off one time, Lord willing, and pray, and then the Lord brings it back, and you know, come on, let's go ahead and admit it. At least admit it, Vicky. We think we're ahead of a lot of people in the mud flood world because we're tying it to the Bible and stuff. This is how we can say, come and check out what we're saying in a really cool way. Because keeping the main thing in my theology anyway, 9/11 was, an inside job. Isn't that what they said? Make sure I got the volume turned up. I want to hear this.
Where the next column fails, the next column fails, the next beam fails, and so forth. Well, you can certainly simulate that, but the problem is this building is not symmetrical. So you start playing that little game, and it's going to tilt. It's not going to be, and we did examine all of that. It's not going to come down as the video shows you. So that whole scenario is not something that could have happened. It's just, I mean, there's so many reasons.
Right. And no matter, and in my world, it takes this type of, it diluted the whole world. And in my theology, it's very important. So I guess I was reassured, and I looked at the news for the top stories, and well, Russia's saying that one of their unexploded things, that Russia's going like, we don't even use those missiles. So we don't know what's going on, right? Great. These dead man secrets, this guy here, we're going to learn so much. And this is somebody that quit making videos 3 years ago, Jeff the Watchman. But I don't agree with everything he says, but we are going to be able to hit that and hit it hard. But as far as like, this is going to happen, and mud flood happened, the reset happened. Let's settle it right now. Something recent happened with our government. The winners of the wars rewrote the history. I've been saying the mafias were in charge. Something happened in 1958, as I've shown before, and we're going to show again. And when that happens, you send out the people, like the people that met my in-laws, the John Birch Society, and they have all these comfortable speakers that can just lay it all out for you about it's atomic warfare or vote for Republican, but do it with this little twist, vote for our guys. So here we go. I'm going to do it. The Lord has shown it, and you're going to know it right now.
They are world politicians. They've got bigger things to occupy their minds than mere party labels. To them, partisan politics is only a game to amuse the masses who crave the showmanship of big national conventions, the excitement of partisan campaigns, and the satisfaction of casting a vote in the illusion that somehow they're really helping to decide the important issues of the day.
People talk to me about, the issue of Republican versus Democrat, as if they don't get it. And I say, look, here's the way you get it. It's organized crime. All you do is you call the Republicans the Genoveses, and you call the Democrats the Gambinos. The people at the top, they treat it like a crap game, like it's their crap game, like they're making lots of money. Occasionally, somebody at the table shoots each other, but the moment anything threatens their crap game, they all unite to protect it. And they're both controlled by the same financial, economic, and corporate interests.
But with precious few exceptions. For the past 2 decades, the American voter has had to make his choice between Grand Designer A and Grand Designer B.
Okay, he's speaking from a 1960 worldview. So 20 years ago would have been when the Nazis would have lost the war without the United States. Earlier. I mean, they had already lost. So that's what's going on.
It's always a source of amazement to me when I hear someone criticize our leaders for being confused in the area of foreign policy, of reversing their position, of bungling the job, and not having any long-range goals. These men are not bungling the job. They're acting in accordance with a definite, well-thought-out plan, and they've been executing that plan with brilliant precision. We may or may not like the plan, but let's not kid ourselves into thinking that there isn't any. Now, I, for one...
Welcome, everybody. You may not see him, but Tommy from Texas is in the house. Can you say hello, Mr. Tommy?
Hey, everybody.
How are you feeling? You look sore.
A little bit. Just woke up from a nap. Yeah.
I liked your show this morning, brother. It got me on the right track. And what? Here's the deal. Full disclosure, I said I'm going to settle it right now. Let's settle Mudflood history.
Settle it?
Settle it. Settle it. At least settle the part that there has been a recent reset.
It'd be easier settling the reason they got off the gold standard.
That's already been settled.
It's not settled.
Oh, yeah, it's been settled. So I remember I just have to go back to the 44-minute mark. You need to hear it again. Tommy needs to hear it. Just so that you can get up to speed. 4412, okay?
Okay.
Occupy their minds than mere party labels. To them, partisan politics is only a game to amuse the masses who crave the showmanship of big national conventions, the excitement of partisan campaigns, and the satisfaction of casting a vote in the illusion that somehow they're really helping to decide the important issues of the day.
People talk to me about, the issue of Republican versus Democrat, as if they don't get it. And I say, look, here's the way you get it. It's organized crime. All you do is you call the Republicans the Genoveses, and you call the Democrats the Gambinos. The people at the top, they treat it like a crap game, like it's their crap game, like they're making lots of money. Occasionally, somebody at the table shoots each other, but the moment anything threatens their crap game, they all unite to protect it. And they're both controlled by the same financial, economic, and corporate interests.
But with precious few exceptions. For the past 2 decades, the American voter has had to make his choice between Grand Designer A and Grand Designer B. It's always a source of amazement to me when I hear someone criticize our leaders for being confused in the area of foreign policy, of reversing their position, of bungling the job and not having any long-range goals. These men are not bungling the job. They're acting in accordance with a definite, well-thought-out plan, and they've been executing that plan with brilliant precision. We may or may not like the plan, but let's not kid ourselves into thinking that there isn't any. Now, I, for one, don't like the plan, and you may wonder why not. As you recall, Earlier, I said that when I was first exposed to the grand design, it seemed like a compelling argument. After all, each of these steps do seem to progress logically, one to the
All
other.
right. So we're going to be going back to how he started his argument.
Who is this guy?
He's a guy like in 1960, warning people that if we don't do something about the New World Order and build up our nuclear arsenal and everything else, it's going to be war. We've got to take these Russians seriously. They have a plan. They've been working it for years.
An original conspiracy theorist.
He is, and it's all from 1960. So I'm just getting it set up here because I'm going to walk it right back down, man.
Escaped by boat, eventually finding their way to India on the high peaks of Tibet. These escaped priests, believed by mystics to be the original race of Aryan godmen, were said to be the ancestors of all Indian and European people. The land was called Atlantis. Certain German mystics claimed the Atlantis myth was actual history. Their proof that Aryans were the chosen people descended from the super beings of Atlantis, and that they had lost their powers by mating with mere mortals. In these theories lay the seeds of Nazi doctrine.
No such thing as Nazi doctrine.
Reichsfuhrer SS Heinrich Himmler, an extreme nationalist, made it his mission to prove that the Germanic
To update the global rules of the road, we have to do it in a way that maximizes benefits for everyone, because obviously it's overwhelmingly in our interest. This is not a zero-sum game. It's overwhelmingly in our interest that China prosper, that Mongolia prosper, that nations big and large, east and west.
Now, as you know, the title of this presentation is The Grand Design. But I should explain at the outset that the
You
real...
see, now this is like a John Birch society. Everybody's sitting there going like, oh, okay. And once you get bought in and get connected, it's no secret oaths or anything like that. It's just a membership. Time to spread the word about what's going on. And well, they heard this.
subject behind this title is U.S. foreign policy.
We're down on secret handshakes.
Now, I realize that there are some who might think that I was trying to be funny or sarcastic with that statement, because for a long time there's been a generally accepted view that our foreign policy has been so bungled and confused that it couldn't possibly have followed any design, much less a grand one.
Oh, did you see that girl? She was just smooking like, how could it be more bungled and confused? They're about to let black people vote, Tommy.
Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of this presentation is to show not only that there is a grand design, but that it has been the consistent, dominant force behind absolutely every major move by the United States in the foreign policy field since at least the end of World War II. This grand design has provided the motivation for all we have done in the past. And unless some basic changes are made...
That's a lot. All we've done in the past is on this grand design, and we're going to get back to this. But later on, as he was talking, he led to, you know, something that I looked up just because he mentioned this guy does that. So listen for it in here. Conley F. Bird, and I just had to stop because he's a little sharecropper boy they were going to talk about. And then I remembered how big the Birds were in the John Birch Society, how big the same family that was wrapped up in the JFK assassination was also the Admiral Byrd. What? Yeah, it's the same guy. It's that Tyler, Texas connection. Yeah. So I looked up this Conrad F. Bird Sr.
You know what Tyler, Texas is famous for?
He's son of northeastern Arkansas. After World War II, became a lawyer and justice for the Arkansas Supreme Court. He proved to be a maverick. Frustrated the elite with his.
What's Tyler famous for?
What is Tyler famous for?
Roses.
Roses, like the Rose Bowl.
Big time roses.
Man, I thought it was famous because that's where my wife and all her friends from Christian Liberty went to school in the summertime to learn how to be real radical wives. It worked.
They got one of the largest flea markets there too.
Man, I'd like to go there someday, Tommy.
First Monday, it's called.
Well, young Conley
Okay.
F. Bird immediately after high school went into the Navy and got into radar, and that's before it was invented.
Should I shut up?
No, no way.
Who's Radar? Radar O'Reilly?
Conley was the Radar O'Reilly, right place, right time, got deaf by a 3-inch gun fired a few feet above his head near the atoll of Japan when the atomic bombs fell on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This man was made dead. Oh, Cardinals?
Window. What did you do to that windshield?
Tried to clean it with the
It
dash.
looks like you smeared grease on it. I'm sorry, I just noticed it.
It's right there. It's that son of a gun interior cleaning cloths.
On the windows?
Man, I wanted to see if I could get that
Why?
steam off it. Well, look at the other part of it. It's messed up.
Oh my God.
The inside's messed up. It's all got to be hit with something.
What have you done?
In 1954, though, here's the deal. Listen to this, Tommy.
Yeah, right.
He got tuberculosis and
What?
entered the Arkansas State Tuberculosis Sanatorium at Boonesville. He's one of theirs now, where he was put on a new drug,
New petroleum fuzz.
streptomycin,
Streptomycin.
that soon banished the disease. I didn't get any farther. I looked up streptomycin. You know what streptomycin is? I want some, man.
An old school antibiotic.
Somehow,
They don't use it much anymore.
because streptomycin was isolated from a microbe discovered on New Jersey soil, and because of its activity against tuberculosis and gram-negative organisms,
So it's antibacterial.
and in recognition of both the microbe and the antibiotic, they're two different things. One's reacting against the other. Am I correct, Tommy? In the history of New Jersey, it was nominated. I don't know if it won, but it was nominated as the official New Jersey state microbe. But if it didn't win, I'd like to know what did win.
Streptococcus was the.
I don't know.
Staphylococcus.
You know, it's such a.
Tuberculosis is the bug of New Jersey. What bug is the bug of New Jersey?
Was submitted. The bill was passed
The streptomycin kills tuberculosis.
in 2018.
What microbe is the microbe of New Jersey?
It won. It won. It finally made it in 2018.
2018.
Streptomycin. There might have been some, some other runners there. Streptomycins. So, but anyway, what I'm saying here, let me get back on the camera, is what I'm trying to tell you now is because they found that antimicrobial from the dirt. I think that's fueling their fire because in case you haven't heard when I've been telling you in the past, the reason they're doing the Hadron Colliders and everything else is because they know the Bible's true, whether you believe it or not. And they know that Jesus, by one of the people of the crew that would have been alive and remain and seen him return, stabbed him with a spear. His blood fell on the ground and water. And they know that elements of God in the flesh are on this planet. And they're antibiotics, this found in the dirt in New Jersey or grown on a mold for penicillin. I think what they're looking for is to collect and try to sample all the bloods of or ingredients of our Lord's body. And when they can synthesize adrenochrome and live forever, because Jesus gave up the spirit. He laid down his own life. They couldn't have killed him. He died and rose again, but he had to give up the spirit. That's what happened. Now, as far as the cover up from the 1960, when you're hearing this new thing about, you know, they got the bomb, we got the bomb, they're going to kill us, or else we have to do this and that and the other thing. What was the big get it out there, the new dynamic? Oh, here's what's happening. The women all laughingly approving. Boy, has it been bungled. Well, the mafia had been taken over. They took over in 57. They started passing these new acts that, as I'll show you, in 1958 led to the fact that nobody would have been working in Congress. They wouldn't have been any Republicans or any Democrats to fake fight over that crap game unless they all signed an affidavit and waiver that the government hadn't been taken over. Not by violence, not by deceit. And unless you sign that, you don't get paid. And that meant you don't get any government money, schools, roads, state, anybody that doesn't, well, you'll read something that had to be signed and affirmed that I admit the United States hasn't been taken over. We haven't been reset. Our government's the same and we're moving forward. We're against the Russians and they're against us. So there it is. Tommy's not going to go live. He's tired and he's busy. So he might go live if maybe more than one person says so. But we don't know. So we have the bird. He's pulling that in, the bird family, JFK and everything else. You know, protein inhibitors. Boy, he did it all after that. This thing, back in the day, it treated plague. This has historically been used as the first line treatment. But right now it's approved only for this purpose by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Means you can't get it. But your horses, sheep, and cattle can still get it. It's commonly prescribed with procaine penicillin, not penicillin, procaine penicillin. What is procaine? It's something local anesthetic of the amino ester group, most commonly used in dental procedures. Probably much then like a form of Novocaine, lidocaine situation. So we're going to move on to here. So I wanted to find out what this state bill was and what it said about the microbes and just see if it was right. And they really did pass this law, discovered this drug from it, one that's not used much anymore. Looked it up, the current version of it and how it was discovered. Of course, first discovered in 1916 when the eugenics movement was taking over the United States and Germany was copying word for word in their eugenic constitution portions from the Virginia law passed by the state, you know, to start sterilizing people. One drop rule. We're a racist country. We're run by fascists or something. Something voted into power. But this thing was curing them all. Made a lot of money off of it. Up to 1955, it was better. It was doing better than ever. And this is what they had. So I looked at it and it kind of was clicking that's the deal, man. Headlines in 1943, some ways to make the world. There's that whole merger thing going on. The Conley Amendment. You know, this is just one that I was going to read on my own later. But what I better do is move on. So I wanted to read this one. Maybe we'll read it together. I don't know. It depends on if it's interesting. And then here's this other. So this Conley, report and his work for the United Nations, because of that medicine, seemed to be all they needed. Formal acceptance of membership in the Organization of the United Nations, because we've got to get back to this.
It will determine everything we shall do in the future. Now, regardless of one's opinion of this grand design, it's the outgrowth of a powerful and compelling argument, a profound statement of philosophy.
So what you're going to hear is a powerful and compelling argument. And now we'll go down to the spot. You can see we've read it before. We know we have to make it a little bigger so you can read along. Still not sure what page it's on. These are laws you have to do. We're so close. I know that you've waited this long in your life for proof, and here it is. No money, no part, any funds appropriated, available, otherwise, nowhere, no how, unless no payments, no loans, has been executed by the commissioner he does not believe in and is not a member of and does not support any organization that believes in or teaches the overthrow of the United States government by force or violence or by any illegal, unconstitutional method, has taken and subscribed an oath of affirmation in the following form. I do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the United States of America, and I will support and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States against all its enemies, foreign and domestic, close quote. The reason why? Because they haven't been overthrown, not by force of violence or any illegal act or any unconstitutional method. You're going to have to sign a paper, an affidavit, that he does not believe in that. And then you can get paid. That our government is going on, and there you have it. If you don't believe that the winners of the wars rewrite the history, I can only ask you, please wait and, listen to this. Maybe I'll be able to convince you more. But wow, that was powerful.
Philosophy and a deceptively attractive appeal to reason. And ladies and gentlemen, unless we are able to counter this argument and to offer a superior philosophy, we'll continue to be like putty in the hands of its advocates. So it's important, to say the least, for us to understand what the grand design is, to analyze it in order to discover its flaws, if any, and then to offer a superior alternative if we can. These three requirements, then, will constitute the general outline of the material and the ideas to be presented here. First, identification. Second, analysis. And third, solution. Now, to plunge right into the core of this challenge, what I'm going to do now is advocate the grand design just as though I really believed in it, which in all honesty, at one time I did. In fact, I'm going to teach it to you, just the way it was taught to me at the University of Michigan. Now, following the form of what we might call an extended syllogism, here is how the argument begins.
Now, unless you're in a government that's been taken over and now it's approved to go out and say, this is our new story, because he's going to say, this is what I was taught at a close to Ivy level controlled school. Same with Michigan State. You stinking Spartans.
1, we are living in a new age. And of course, you can't hardly argue with that. We're always living in a new age. But nevertheless, we're reminded of that profound fact rather elaborately. We're living in an age of marvelous and incredible technological advances. An age in which men travel faster than the speed of sound, in which satellites forge communication links between continents, in which space itself has become a limitless frontier of exploration. And then at the end of the list of all these wondrous and productive scientific achievements, always we are reminded with ominous overtones that we also have something that is now called the bomb. End of step 1, ready now for step 2.
Okay, so there's the whole thing with the bomb. What I would normally do is I'd say something like, wasn't that fun? But, you know, with my clickbaity title and everything, there's going to be, you know, instead of the usual dozens of people that watch this show, you know, that won't watch anything more than like 30 or 40 minutes, if that, I'm going to do a fake ending. And so bear with me now. So for all you people that don't think that I answered your question, I did, and you know it. We've had to have an affidavit signed that you don't believe there's been a reset, but there has. And that's because of the flat earth nation and everything else. And what you need to believe is more truth. So tune in where you can hear things like this that will tweak your mind. Dang, is that the rockin'est 2.5 minutes on YouTube? I think it is. So the best we can do is hope to, get that edited someday and, just keep on sharing. So the rest of us who are, good to learn a little bit more than a half hour at a time, we're going to keep going here. North Korea, hostile. Well, we mostly want to hear this guy, but go ahead. Nuclear bombs.
Major powers, both sides would lose. No one could come out ahead in that kind of a war. Everyone would lose. It wouldn't make any difference who the good guys were or who the bad guys were. It wouldn't make any difference who started it, or even if it were started by accident. Both sides would lose. All right, now having acknowledged the existence of the bomb, and having concluded that risking war is unthinkable in this modern age, we move now to step number 3, which is this. Since the communists have nuclear weapons, and since they certainly would use them in their own self-defense, that means, doesn't it, that victory over communism is impossible. Now, we may wish that it were possible. We may wish that we were living in a bygone era in which if one had an enemy, he could meet him on the open battlefield and get it over with. We may wish that a lot of things were different in this old world. But instead of moaning and weeping and longing after those things which are no longer possible, let's grow up, be mature, intelligent human beings, and face life the way it really is. Rather than living in a fantasy world, dreaming and longing after those things we want but can never have, instead, let's find out what is the best we can get, and then work for that. All right, now the next step.
No. First off, I have to show the people, these 12 people that are here, to understand, what the answers are. Notice he said they used to think it was impossible. There were 2 versions of communism. One was possibilism, one was impossibilism. Possibilism was that it was possible to do what they experiment with in the former Soviet Union. They took over, rose up, and saw how it worked. Whereas in the United States, what they branded impossibilism was that you could have a country where it would eventually vote in socialism. Now, to prove that, there's history.
Why would you say that to me?
Impossibilism is a Marxist theory and perspective on the emergence of socialism that stresses the limited value of political, economic, and social reforms within a capitalist economy. It argues that the pursuit of such reforms is counterproductive because they stabilize and strengthen support for capitalism, thereby helping to ensure its continuation. Impossibilism holds that the pursuit of reforms should not be a major concern for socialists because such reforms are irrelevant, if not counterproductive, to the realization of socialism. Impossibilism insists that socialists should solely, or at the least, primarily, focus on structural changes, sometimes termed revolutionary changes, to society as opposed to advancing social reforms. Impossibilists argue that spontaneous revolutionary action is the only viable method of instituting the structural changes necessary for the construction of socialism. Impossibilism is thus held in contrast to reformist socialist parties that aim to rally support for socialism through the implementation of popular social reforms, such as a welfare state, and those who believe that socialism can emerge through gradual economic reforms implemented by an elected social democratic political party. Impossibilism is the opposite of possibilism and immediatism. Possibilism and immediatism are based on a gradualist path to socialism and a desire on the part of socialists to help ameliorate the social ills immediately through practical programs implemented by existing institutions such as labor unions and electoral politics. thereby de-emphasizing the ultimate objective of building a socialist economy. As a result, socialists who embraced possibilism and immediatism sounded and acted little different from non-socialist reformers. Impossibilist movements are also associated with anti-Leninism in their opposition to both vanguardism and democratic centralism.
Man, that was even so much better. That was like so much better of a definition that I would have thought that I could get off of Wikipedia. That I'm going to wrap it up right there because I'm going to keep this short 40-minute thing. That will bring them in. I won't have to edit it later. And I'm reminded by everybody else around this gated community all doing their labor. I'm sure I should probably get out there and do something too because it's nice out. But for all we know, this is a $2 bet. But before somebody in the Satan group in the resets, that they said let's let them bet with that possibilism and impossibilism. Maybe it's a $2 bet, like in trading places. So they both worked. It worked in Russia. They took over and it worked, and then now we voted ourselves into it. But it wouldn't have worked without the reset. And who would let them make the reset? The mafias. Keep playing your election games, and you can do it, or go one world as long as we keep making the money. It's all true. It all proves that this is a flat earth nation and Mudflood was Armageddon. And that's why I'm never going to tell you anything else. Neither are my friends. We're trying to prove that we have your best interest at heart. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho.